Good evening, Johannes.
Good evening, Harmon.
It's good to see you again after
What
several
a
weeks.
what a lovely fiery going on over there.
Oh, yeah. Is it disturbing you?
No,
Okay.
no, it's
Okay.
beautiful.
Yeah, I thought so. And it's beginning to get to be the right season for it. So with autumn, etc. So
Yep.
anyway, Johannes, this is going to be your podcast
It's
because it's all about you and your own personal ND model that you created and that we're going to talk about in this podcast. The first podcast, because this is more or less a trilogy, the first podcast was about Wen Wanghua and how easy it actually can be to use and to practice. And this podcast is about your own ND model and the philosophy behind it, how it works, and what the value is of this model. And in the next podcast, we will combine Wen Wanghua with your ND model. And then we're also going to discuss one or maybe more, I don't know, examples. Yes?
correct. Yeah.
So this is all about you and your model. And what I'm very interested in, I'm very interested to know, because that is often important information for me to understand a new system or even to understand an old system. In this case, who the hell is Johannes Bloemsma?
Okay. Who the hell is Johannes Bloemsma? Well, I'm a man from the north of Holland, and I'm always interested in nature. Because in the north of Holland, you have a lot of nature and the wind and the waters and
Yes,
everything around that. I believe you're also from the north.
definitely. I lived for a large part of my youth. I lived in Friesland up north. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I also come from Friesland, and when I was sitting there as a young boy, I always saw in October the geese,
Oh,
the birds.
yes.
So the cycles of nature, and I was very interested in that. Later on, I came across to philosophy, and I'm very curious about that, and especially Eastern philosophy.
Okay.
And then came China on my path, of course, and yin and yang, and of course the G. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
I was really struck.
Okay.
And from that moment on, and I was about 22 years old, I really got into the book of changes.
Such a
And
mysterious book.
such a mysterious book, indeed. And you never get rid of it.
No, it's true.
Because you want to understand it, but you can never understand it truly, except if you understand yourself. But when this book came across on my life path, I was really into it. From that moment on, I was doing a study, feng shui, and Western feng shui, and there was a little part of that, and that is called nine-star key. And that had everything to do with astrology and how persons work. And the teacher said, well, these numbers of nine-star key are related to the Yijing. But I didn't do the Yijing before that. But I had this book in my book closet.
Okay.
My former girlfriend had it.
Oh, okay.
And so I took the Yijing and I read it. And I was really struck by it, especially the first and the second hexagram. And it was by Richard Wilhelm. And it just grabbed me by
Okay.
the soul. And then I thought, okay, how can we combine Narsaki, the numbers, and the hexagrams of the Yijing together so we can get a full scope of uh, how life goes, because it's called the Book of Change.
Yeah. Johannes, what can you tell about this nine star key, about the origin of nine star key? Because is it Chinese or because the name nine star key seems to implies some sort of Japanese origin. I mean, ki is the Japanese word for chi.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
what do you know about the origin of nine star key?
not very much.
Okay.
Not very much. I know the most things are about Japanese things, but there is in the old books nothing about Nagasaki in China. We
Oh,
have been in that kind of things to search about it, but it's very difficult. But
yeah.
one of the first things to go is then to this. Let me show. And I don't know if you can see this, Harman.
Yes, I can.
To Gang Ming Li. So we go to nine palaces destiny pattern, Jiu Gong Ming Li. And I guess this is a first root of nine star key in Japan. And what the Japanese did, the roots of that really is Chinese, with
Okay.
the trigrams, the five elements, and the patterns how stars move through the palaces. But we
Okay.
cannot find anything about that in the old history books in China.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Only
Well,
the flying stars, how the stars move in the Song dynasty.
okay. Because nine star key is all about persons and personality,
Mm.
character traits. And with nine star key, you have these nine numbers, and every number um, has some sort of description of a personality or certain character traits. Am I right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I don't believe that Naisaki or the roots of Naisaki are rooted in personality traits. I
Okay.
definitely think they are very spiritual and have to do with everything Taoistic, how to move with the stars, how to align with the stars, and not personality traits.
Okay.
Although you can get very strong personality traits when you understand stars, but I don't think that's a true reason of nice key.
No, I don't think so either, because if the origin is this Zhougong Mingli system from China, I have never found any Chinese books that contain these character personality descriptions.
No,
So,
that
which to me seems to imply that the usage of Zhougong Mingli is entirely different from Nine Star Key. So, I'm very curious how you are going to use and implement Nine Star Key, but you already started your presentation.
Mhm.
So maybe it's a good idea if you just continue with that and tell about your own about Nine Star Key and how you connected with Yijing, because that's what your presentation is about. Am I right?
Yep, you're right.
Okay.
Well,
Oh no, oh sorry. I still have one question, because you told me that you were thinking about this idea to combine Nine Star Key with the I Ching. There was one moment in your life when you thought, how can I combine these? But why did you find the need to combine these two? I mean, we already have so many systems. Why the need
okay.
for an extra system?
Very good question. I was in a very bad place at that moment in my life. I'm gonna tell something personal. Um, I just had a kid, or just had a kid, a couple of years ago. From that moment on, and my former wife had a postnatal depression for many years. And we had a very difficult life at that moment. So I wanted to understand why this is happening. And at that moment, I was doing that traineeship I was telling you about, Feng Shui and Aisaki, because I wanted to know. And then I wanted to know, when I got to learn from Naisaki, deeper. I wanted to know what is happening,
Yeah.
but I couldn't understand it from Naisaki alone.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to go to the next level, why things are going, they are going. I could understand myself with the numbers, and we go into that a little bit further. But I couldn't understand the changes, what was going around in my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it in other systems. But I knew that there was a connection between Daisaki and the Yijing, intuitive. So I
Okay.
asked my teacher, is there this integration? And she said, well, no. I thought, well, it has to be. It has to be. I feel it because I
Yeah.
want it. And from that moment on, it was a quest to find it. And she was right. There was nothing to find about this
Oh,
topic.
that's true.
And then I went on to find it out. And then the key and the lock opened. And then I went on with this thing, but it was all about discovering myself, discovering the hurt that I'm feeling, discovering the hurt where it came from. And what we're about to see is that what we feel has also everything to do with our parents and ancestors and
Yeah.
even karmic stuff. And I'm
Okay.
really into that, if as you know. And the hexagrams of the I Ching told me quite a lot about that and experiences that I had with it.
Okay. Oh, very good. Wow. Okay, so it was actually difficult moment in your life that
Absolutely, rock bottom.
initiated this challenge for you to find the and maybe to find the missing link between the I Ching and Nine Star Key.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting. So, well, do tell Johannes. Just follow your presentation. I'm very curious what you're going to tell about Nine Star Key and the I Ching and how you're going to connect these two. Please go ahead.
Okay. When we talk about Jiu Gong Ming Li, I'm not Chinese. I cannot pronounce Chinese, but is this the right
Sounds good to me.
Harman?
Yes,
Jiu
Jogong.
Gong Ming Li?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Jogong Mingli. Yes.
Okay. And then as last words, we see pattern can also say principle. Uh, uh, but why I'm very curious about it is more Taoistic. And in Taoistic terms, it's more pattern. So
Yeah.
Li is more pattern than principle. I don't like principles. Ah,
No, if you use the meaning of principle, that's more Confucianist.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
that Zhu Xi wrote a lot about pattern from the Confucianistic philosophy, about yeah principle. And I've always had trouble understanding this principle of Li, at least from the Confucianistic point of view. I always
Yeah.
found it very difficult to understand. I could read a lot of articles and books about it. I still didn't get it. It's a little bit like these terms from electronics. I still don't understand what watt means and volt, and it's still the same kind of to me, they have this same kind of feeling. I mean, they are words, but I can't really grasp them, or they are labels, and I
No.
can't really grasp them. And I had the same trouble with Lee. But and that, I also feel more comfortable with this idea of pattern. That's more
Yeah, yeah,
found
yeah.
more.
It's
That's
it's
easier to understand.
and it's more Taoistic.
Yes.
And for me, nice key when I really got into it, and especially the base of it, it goes oh, on the numbers. Oh, I go back a little bit.
Hmm.
Okay, never mind. It doesn't matter because our viewers will understand this one.
Yeah.
It goes about the low shoe, but not many viewers know about the movement in the low shoe, and they are called the steps of Jew or the low shoe steps.
Okay.
And the numbers they are changing. And what we will see is like the black numbers, we will call that the stars. Yeah? And
Okay.
the red numbers are the palaces. So the numbers change to the palaces. And for example, let us look at the number 7. So on the right. Yeah. You see the black 7?
Where are we still looking at first slide? I still see the first slide with 9 palaces, destiny pattern, Jogumini.
Oh, I see that my screen is paused. Why?
Oh,
I don't know. Okay.
then you can just stop sharing and
Okay.
try again.
This is technical problems, and I
That's because it's Monday.
can get out of this. Oké, hier even een pauze, Harmen. Want ik ken
So,
deze.
yes, one moment. And we're back. We had a technical glitch, but we solved it. And we were talking, Johannes, about the low shoe. You were going to, I think, go to explain the low shoe.
Ja.
And how you are using it in your own system. So, and what we now see on the screen, which a few moments ago didn't really work, but now we can see the image with the actual low shoe. So please, Johannes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Harman. Yeah, the low shoe is what we know like a magical square. And that means that every line of numbers will add up to the same number. And it will be 8, 5, 2 is 15, 3, 5, 7 also 15. And every line is like the same number.
Wow, that's
And
magic.
that's magic, but
Yeah.
when it comes to the Yijing, it's also magic
Okay.
because they have a resonance. Every number is combined with a trigram, and the trigrams and the numbers are moving through the whole palaces. So we have 9 palaces and we have 9 stars. What is the magic square? What is the low shoe? The low shoe is like a square of how heaven and earth combine and how we as humans interact with heavily influences.
Okay.
How does that work? With numbers. So when we look at the numbers are moving around the magic square, the low shoe. So for example, let's look at the number 5 in the center.
Yes.
Okay. Every month, every year, even every day, the stars are moving through the palaces. and they're going to the next palace. So from 5 to 6, where will the star go next time? To the 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Every month, every year, every day, the stars are changing, and then we get a 9-star key moment.
Okay.
So, for example, if you were born on March 26, 1966, you will get a 775 9-star key moment.
Okay. So 9-star key means you have 3 numbers.
Always.
Okay.
The first number is heaven number.
Yeah.
The middle number is human number. And the last number is earth number.
Okay.
So earth and heaven are combined in the human.
Hmm.
Amen.
So that more or less corresponds to this age-old idea from China, from Sanchai, heaven, earth, and man, that concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel also that Jingong Ming Li and Narsaki is very much, if you see the numbers, is Taoistic from approach, from a
Yes.
root, yeah? The
Okay.
pattern. And we can see if you have 775, this will be your low shoe. There are 9 low shoes.
Yes. Okay.
And this is a pattern that you have from karmic stuff, from your father, from your mother, from your ancestors, from everything that goes around, and what is happening in your life. But when you combine the stars and the palaces, you get hexagrams. I cannot go into how you combine the stars and palaces to fix the hexagrams, because that would be a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, if we have the 775, we will get this profile, and this is an ND profile. And this is what I did to combine Narsaki with the Yijing. And then you got always 4 hexagrams.
Okay.
This hexagram will always tell what is your main purpose, your family, your background, your karmic background, your past history
Okay.
before you were born. That doesn't mean you have to live that life, but you resonate on it. We come on that a little bit later on, because on the karmic hexagrams, this hexagram tells you everything about relationships, about your mother, how you stand in your talents, what you give to other people, the model lines.
Okay.
This hexagram tells everybody everything about the model lines and what you find very difficult in life. This hexagram will tell you all about how you get in the flow.
Okay.
Questions, Harlan?
Well,
Because I'm
very nice colors, by the way. These circles or these dots in the center. What can you tell about these?
yeah, these are the 5 elements.
Oh, these 5 elements.
Yeah, and
Oh,
we
you also
can,
used 5 elements in your system.
yeah, completely. And they show us in what kind of pattern the energy is most available. And this is wood,
Yeah.
this is fire, this is metal, this is water, this is earth. And we
Mm.
see in the 775 profile that wood is very strong.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, yesterday someone called me about her son, and this is her profile, his profile.
Yeah.
And she said, he is so sad, so sad.
Okay.
Why is that? And what can I do about it? And then I look at these things, 775, so 7, 7. Which trigram belongs to that, Harlan? Do you know?
7, that would be lake.
Yeah, it's a lake person.
Okay.
Okay, and then I look at that. Okay, and lake is very much vulnerable for circumstances from external circumstances.
Yes.
And it wants to be joyful, but when 7 doesn't have, or the lake doesn't have fuel from outside, it becomes like a silent lake, like a
Yeah.
little bit depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I always start with what is the first number,
Yeah.
and then go to what is the prime hexagram of this person. Okay, what do we see? Heaven below, and heaven below of also the lower trigram is always the inner motion.
Okay.
What kind of person is the most important to him?
Yeah.
If you see heaven,
Well, that must be the father.
that must be the father, and of course it's the father.
Yeah.
How will he react on the father?
Mm-hmm.
So I go along with this person to talk, and then we see, okay, there is a lot about grief inside of this. And I asked this woman, has this something to do with the father? And also with how can he I don't know how to explain it, but how can he be the father? What's about the father?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And she told a lot about the father, and I will not say it like here, but
No.
in 47, that says a lot. What's
Yeah.
going on around over there?
Yeah. So
Depressions,
how old is her son?
20,
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay.
20. And so there's a lot to go going around the father stuff in 47, because when we know about 47, water below the lake, it's drowning, so depression is going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
So I asked her, okay, are there many more people in the family that have to do with depression and things like that? Yeah, the father. Okay, then we go a little bit further with his father.
Oh,
So
okay.
then you get a whole, and then we get to the nuclear hexagrams, and I can go a little bit in that. But what we get with an ND model is a whole scope of the person itself, the mother, the father, and what it should be.
Okay. But this is my thing, as you know, Johannes, because when I see hexagram 34 and I look at the nuclear trigrams and the primary trigrams, and of course the Bauti, of which we also did a podcast, there's so many interesting so many interesting patterns in that hexagram,
Yeah,
because the upper nuclear trigram, that's lake.
yep,
and it's being surrounded by another trigram lake. And that's so
Yep.
interesting because this is a lake profile. So
Yep.
at the same time, we have this idea of the father. That's the lower trigram. There are issues with the father, but it is connected to this idea of lake and lake profile. And
Yep.
the lower nuclear trigram, that's also the lower primary trigram. That's heaven again. That's the father, which is being surrounded by thunder, which is also the upper trigram. So many interesting patterns in this hexagram, Johannes. And I think that
Yep.
is what this is about, finding these patterns and giving them meaning within this whole system.
Yep. And then you even got the moving lines.
Oh
And that
dear,
is,
there are also things moving in the hexagrams.
yeah,
Oh
you
dear,
see it.
wow.
And there are so many patterns in this. And whenever you talk about it with people, they become, oh, now I understand.
Yeah,
But I never talk about how the hexagrams work or something like that
no,
during
no.
consultancy. And it's I find it also very difficult to talk about it with you in this podcast, how it works for me.
Yeah.
But there is so many things going on.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think it's very tempting to give meaning to every little aspect, either of the hexagrams or of your system. You can go into so many layers of this system. But I think, as you also said, that the most important thing is actually these patterns. I often see people calculate the nuclear hexagrams of every hexagram that they cast, and they calculate the nuclear hexagrams of the nuclear hexagrams, and they get a huge array, huge list of hexagrams, and they want to give meaning to all these hexagrams, which in itself is fine. But personally, I always think, well, just look at the patterns
yeah,
within this whole range of hexagons. There are often patterns that jump out that are repeating itself, and that I think these patterns actually have more meaning than the individual parts of these patterns. So
absolutely.
and I think that's the interesting thing of working with your model and with Yijing and also with Wen Wangwa. In my workbook about Wen Wangwa, I always say, well, look for the patterns. There are always patterns. So, and that's what's interesting to work with. Johannes, I see as a lower hexagram, I see that's the life theme. And the upper hexagram, how do you translate it into English? The wealth hexagram?
Yeah, you could translate it like that, but it's more like if you're in the flow hexagram,
Okay.
because when you're doing things like in yin and yang, it's all right.
Okay.
But when you're doing that, you want to grab it. And if you grab it, you lose it. And this hexagram tells you everything about what you should do to go to that wealth or the flow.
Mhm.
And well, how you're about to lose it.
But that's the same hexagram as the life theme in this specific case. That isn't
Yep.
always the case, I assume.
No, no, no.
So we have a pattern here.
Absolutely a pattern. And
Yeah.
in every ND model, we will see the pattern of yin and yang. This is also very interesting. The left and the right and above hexagram will always have 9 yang lines and 9 yin lines. Always,
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow.
always.
Okay. But that
But
is not something that's more or less a pattern that came out of your system. You didn't say that this three
no,
hexagon
no,
should
no,
contain 9
no,
young
no,
lives.
no.
No,
It
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 was
it was like that, and I just saw it 3 years or 4 years later. I thought, let me count yin or yang lines.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Always,
that's
always nine. This one,
a
this one, this
wow.
one.
That's
Always.
amazing. Wow. So, and that actually makes it more or less a closed system, because this kind of patterns that show that your system is well, it's a closed system. You can't add anything else to it because that would break the system. It's complete in the way that you
Yeah.
devised it. And closed systems are often, in my humble opinion, the best systems. I mean,
Ex-
that's the same with the Yijing. The Yijing is also a closed system. You have a hexagram with 6 lines. You
Yeah.
have 64 hexagrams. You can't add just one hexagram to the other 64. That's impossible.
Yep.
So you can add an extra line to a hexagram, but that would add 64 more hexagrams to the whole system, and that would make it again a closed system. So, and that's the same with your model. It's a closed system, and that personally, I always find closed systems the best systems to work with. For instance, I don't consider, and this might be blasphemy for persons people who work with the tarot, but I don't think you can. I think you can easily add an extra card to a set of tarot cards. At least the great arcana can be, you can add an extra card without really having much consequences. And that's what I often
Yep.
see with tarot decks, that they think, oh, the certain card is missing, so they add an extra card to it. And that is fine. That in itself is not wrong, but that's something that would be impossible with Yijing and with your system. You can't just simply add something because you think it is missing. If you think something is missing, you have to find it in the closed system. It should be there somewhere.
Yeah. Strongly said, and it's true because I've tried it with yin system, and then it all broke down.
Oh, okay.
So when I use the numbers in a different way, it all broke down.
Okay.
So when I use the system of the Naisaki, Jingong, and I used it on my system, it was always neatly.
Okay.
But you have to use the solar system.
Oh, the solar calendar.
Yeah, solar calendar. This
Oh,
is very
excellent.
important, and I strongly want to emphasize this. In this case, when Nice Hockey is solar based, for everybody who's hearing this, for now and forever, it's solar based. It's an
Yeah.
agriculture calendar.
Yes. Okay. And don't ever
Please,
use the lunar calendar. I
never,
personally no.
ever, ever.
I personally hate the lunar
Nothing,
calendar.
nothing
That's
on this.
no.
Nothing on I have nothing against the lunar calendar, but never ever use it on this.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I think the main advantage of the solar calendar is that it makes it much easier to connect the system with the seasons and the 5 elements. So,
Naisaki is solary based on the solar system,
okay,
and because also on the 15 grades, Y 15 is 15 yeah, graden,
in degrees, yeah, 15 degrees, yeah,
15 degrees. This is an early solar system,
okay,
what we're looking at the low shoe. Nothing more, nothing less. And it has
okay,
everything to do with agriculture. So with the thunder, with the tree, we get the rising of things. Then we get the blooming. Then we get the fire of the sun. Then we get working together like trigram earth. Then we get the festivities of, oh, we get it all inside, you know. And then, okay, what did we earn? And then, oh, winter is coming.
yes,
And then we have to be silent. And here, the man would go out and fight. And then, oh, the woman had some terrible anxiety in the drums. And then they ate. The death and a new beginning.
Okay.
And
That's
here it
beautiful.
rises.
Yeah.
So there is a cycle in this low shoe.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Can we go back to your chart with the ND model? Yes,
Yeah.
slide number 9. Yeah. Okay. And these colors of the trigrams, these are your own?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure they're my own. But through an ayahuasca ceremony, I received these colors of
Oh, wow.
trigrams.
Okay. Good.
So, yeah.
Okay. I don't really have any questions anymore about this specific chart. But I see
Yep.
another interesting chart below that, also with nice
Mhm.
colors. Slide number 10.
Okay, this one? You mean?
Yes.
Okay, with the slides, with the colors, if do you have a question about that, the colors, or
Well, I noticed,
also?
of course, mainly the difference with the background color.
Hmm, yeah,
So I find interesting to know how you use colors in your sheets, but also in your model, because I often see these kind of sheets in your presentations, and they always have these nice colors. So
yeah,
what can you tell about the colors, or isn't that not really important?
yes, it's important. It's
Okay.
important. What I just told you about the trigrams, that was an ayahuasca tour. So I've been on plant medicines and looked really deep into the trigrams and the colors,
Okay.
and they came to me. But the colors of the main scheme, so the colors of the trigrams came to me by ayahuasca,
Yeah.
but the round scheme is more about the 5 elements.
Oh, okay.
And always you will see the thing that is most um, uh, available in the color. So in this one, green, that would say wood
Yeah.
is below, and then we get a little shift of red and white, because also that is an earth in this case is quite yeah, is quite visible.
Yeah.
And that's more in this shade. Let's go a little bit back in this. So we have green and white. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
coming
Okay.
around in this one,
Mhm.
but okay. The background is mostly colored by the elements, the wood.
Oh, I see. So, and this is an entirely different profile.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah, this is from another person.
Yeah, completely different person.
Okay, and yet I see patterns.
Okay, yeah, of course you see patterns.
Yeah.
Tell me what patterns you see.
Well, the first thing that I do notice that is the same hexagram is for the live team hexagram and the right hexagram, which deals with the father. Am I right?
Yep, you're
So, and
completely
that's
right.
what I find interesting. What does such a combination tell about this person?
Okay, let me tell this. When this combine, they will feel the integration of the father and father teams. So what the father didn't do or couldn't held with in life, this will brought on to the child,
Oh, okay.
and the child will say, "Yes, father, I will do that in love," because we love our parents,
Mm-hmm.
and we love our parents with such a craziness, even if you don't love them.
Yeah, yeah.
But you will do the things, and this pattern will say what the father didn't do and the father lines you will have and you will do.
Okay.
And you have to look at the lines. What is most important to you
Okay. So
from this hexagram?
these three lines with these numbers, these are actually moving lines.
Oh, these are moving lines.
And
And
where
these
do these
moving,
moving lines come from? How are they
okay,
generated?
this is like this, arm,
Yeah.
yin, yang. So
Oh,
we have a moving line over here.
yeah.
Is this cycle? So we have a moving line from yin to yang. So this one is moving.
Hmm.
Look at this one, yang, and this is yin.
Yeah.
So this is moving.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everything is, and you can go around if you like, but it has many meaning because, for example, we know what problem this person profile has to do with the father,
Mm-hmm.
also with the mother. And problem is not a word, but let me say team.
Okay.
And this is a very strong profile.
Yeah. What I find interesting, because that's another pattern, is that the right hexagram, which in general deals with the father, it contains the trigram of the father,
Yeah,
and the left hexagram, which deals with the mother, contains the trigram that represents the mother. So,
yes,
and well, that's you know what that might indicate, but
yeah.
it's just an interesting pattern
Oh,
that
it's
the
more than,
hexagram for the mother has the trigram for mother, and the hexagram for the father has the trigram for the father.
okay.
So
And then we have this upper line.
yeah,
When that changes, it becomes 18,
yes,
hexagram 18. And that hexagram I love. It has everything to do with the father and the mother.
yeah,
And I can bet your ass, every person under this profile, and I've had many of them, had these certainties with the mother and the father, how it came about. And you have to look at these patterns and to talk with people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the most beautiful thing that there is, I believe.
Yeah, because these patterns, you have to hear from the person how the person experienced these patterns.
Yeah,
So, and often these patterns, they are unknown to the person. They don't see the patterns because they are in the middle of it. So, and when you are in the middle, just living your life, you often don't see the patterns. And this system can help to find these patterns. But you also have to know how the person sees these patterns in their own history and in the family's history, because I think you also like hexagram 18 because it's maybe in your own words a more or less a karmic hexagram, because it deals with issues from the ancestors.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
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 and from the father and from the mother.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
And these patterns are very strong if you talk about it with people. Well, I've talked about hundreds and hundreds of people
yeah,
past years,
yeah, yeah,
and
it's interesting.
it's just fascinating how these hexagrams work. For
Yeah,
example, can we go a little bit deeper inside of this? Because
I think so. For so far you haven't really discussed the meaning of each hexagram. For instance, in the upper hexagram you have hexagram 39. And so, how do you use the meaning of a hexagram? You talked about trigrams, but do you also use the meaning, the overall general meaning of a hexagram?
yes and
Or
no.
is that less important? Or do you mainly work with the trigrams and moving lines? And is the general meaning or name of the hexagram, is that less important for you?
No,
Like
it's
for
not
instance,
like
hexagram.
no, no, no.
Okay.
It all depends on the question, because when you know the question, you know where to dive into.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with I find more interesting or more powerful or something.
Okay.
When the answer is heard and seen, that's the answer. And that's where I work on, and that's also where I teach my students to work on, because someone could also say, oh, it's all about the wood. Let's find about wood.
Okay.
And you have to find your own door. And
Yes.
when your door is found, you get the answer. Because I don't think, yeah, what's more important? I don't care.
No. Okay.
What the person finds interesting for his or her question. Um,
Yeah. And so, and that's more or less, I
I
think.
do feel, sorry, Oman. I do feel in my consultancy, it must fire something. If I
Yeah.
feel anger or hurt or tears, then I know, okay, now we're on to something, and then we go along on that. Uh, but it also every time has to do with going along with the client.
Yeah. Yeah. But this sounds more or less the same as with Wen Wangua. If you are using this model, you can find your own way in how you're going to analyze all the material that is in it. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
you don't really, if you don't really see a connection immediately with the trigrams, well, then it's okay to ignore the trigrams. But if for some reason the five elements hit you in the face, then that
Yeah.
probably is something that you can start with. So,
Absolutely.
and that's the same with Wen Van Qua. I mean, you don't have to apply all the rules and know all the details to be able to use it. So,
No, no,
yeah,
no. It's all about what you're feeling
yeah, yeah.
and
It
what you
should
can
stir
use.
something. It should,
Yeah.
in some way, it should. I often look for some sort of emotional response. Because if there is an emotional response either to a pattern or something in the whole analysis, the trigrams, whatever, that often has meaning because then the person is really touched by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's often important. So,
And you can bring it back too. And all the time you can do that. But for me, and I always say that to my students, if you have a real connection with someone, with your clients, go with that.
yeah,
And this is just something you can use, but it's not life.
no,
And although I'm a client to get the Yijing my whole life, it's not my life.
no,
And although I'm fascinating by it, and I know that when we also use this model, and what I do with my students in lifelines, because there is also uh, your age and what happens in that time cycle is just amazing.
yeah,
and also what happens in your body. Many people come to me when they are sick, and
Okay, so you,
it's,
you can also use this system for medical purposes.
oh, absolutely, and they use it for
Interesting.
medical personal,
Okay.
medical, business, personal, and
Yeah.
that's not to say that you should only use this, but when it comes to medical things, there are a couple of persons that have really strong sicknesses, and they just ask me how to see this process, and that's where I help them. And well, it's been very good for them.
Yeah.
Uh, but you should never, ever, what kind of model take further than your own life? That's my opinion.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Some people uh, are mailing me or messaging me. Should I do this? Should I do that? Because
Oh,
I feel that.
okay.
And
Yeah.
many people, and I think, yeah, if you feel you have to do that, just do it.
Yes.
You don't need my opinion about the Yijing
No.
or what do you feel self about it, you know? And I really like to learn people how to use it yourself, so to be self-constructing.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
and I really don't like too much questions. How should I do that? Because yeah,
No.
it's in there, and yeah, but how to read it? Yeah, I find that very difficult, Harman,
Yeah.
because on one hand side, I want to give it them, and on the other hand, I
Yeah, I think you have to be
yes,
careful with that. Yeah, because often
I'm not a
people,
guru.
no, but people often, not deliberately, but unconsciously, they make you responsible for their life choices.
Yeah,
And you should always try to stay away from that as much as possible. So even if when a client, no, not that I really have clients, but if someone asks me if they say they should do something, they have this idea and they want to know if it's okay to pursue that kind of action. They often ask me if I can consult the I Ching for them and tell them if they should do it or shouldn't do it. And my first question is always, well, how do you feel about it? What do you think? What are the consequences? And when I have asked that question, then they often say, well, yeah, I think that by now I think I know what I need to do. Ta-da! We didn't consult the I Ching. And you found your
yeah.
own answer to your question. And all I did was ask questions. And I think that's how it should be, because the I Ching isn't and also, and I think you have the same idea about that. My role as a teacher is not to tell you what to do, but is to tell you, to explain to you, and to teach you how you can use either a model like this or the I Ching so you can do it yourself. I mean, that's my general idea, that there are no bad choices.
No, no,
Every
no.
choice is fine as long as you are able to accept the consequences.
Yep.
If you're able to accept the consequences, then every choice is fine. Should I choose this school, this university? Should I go to Princeton or should I go to Harvard? I have no idea. Well, then just follow your gut feeling and make a choice. And you can't make a bad choice there if you are able to accept the consequences. And you can
No, I had
always
the
change
same.
later. So,
Yeah, I had the same discussion with the mother yesterday, and she said, "I'm so scared he's making the wrong choice." Well, I don't think we can ever make a wrong choice,
no, there are no wrong choices. There are no bad
but
choices.
there are wrong consequences on what we're doing. We're following the river, and there is like this, following it with well, with grace
Yeah.
or with some bombs, but we are following it. I don't think that uh, that we can ever make a wrong decision because we do it from ourselves. You
Yeah,
understand?
exactly. And
And
also,
this model and what I have with the persons that I speak, ah, they have like, oh, I understand. Yeah,
yeah,
of course you understand because I'm talking about you, man.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it,
yeah,
it it's just a river, but are we the river? And that's the utmost question. I do not think we are the river.
okay,
We can ascend it, but that's a Taoistic approach,
yeah,
perhaps, because yeah, I don't think we are these patterns.
no,
We follow it, and perhaps the most when we're down or under pressure, we're mostly following it.
yeah,
Uh, but we are not the patterns because the patterns were before us and they will last before we're gone.
yeah. And that reminds me of
So,
a song I was listening to on Spotify. It's in my favorite playlists. It's a bit upbeat number, and a lady is narrating this idea about the moon in the water, and she has this very weird accent with in which she explains that the moon in the water is like human experience. And there's a whole philosophy described in that number that when the moon is reflected in the water, but the water, the reflection is not the moon, and in the if the water is not clear, it will affect the reflection of the moon, etc. And that is what this reminds me of. There is a difference between the moon and the water was the subject, that's the person, and the moon is the object. And the way that was described in that song reminds me a little bit of what you're saying here, that it's all about this water and going with the flow, and how you are going through the flow, how you're going to steer your boat is also going to affect how the movement in the water, but it's also
yeah,
going to affect your own journey. So
absolutely.
every action has its consequences, every choice has its consequences. So are you the water, or is it just the journey? Well, I think you are, it's the journey, and you are also the water. So it doesn't necessarily need, the one does not need to exclude the other. So, but it's very,
No,
we're
no,
getting
no.
really philosophical here now.
No, no, I think we're getting great over here now because we're also going to the lines of what you're saying. The lines in the hexagrams, for example, are the ripples in the water, the flowing of the water, and where does it resonate with? You
Yeah,
know, and this is an extremely important thing in understanding of the hexagrams. If you understand the moving lines and how they resonate, then you get magic.
yeah, because these
Uh,
moving lines, they are the ripples in the water.
oh,
So that is
absolutely.
where something is moving. That's where something is
Yeah,
happening. Yeah.
there is something happening over here.
Yeah.
And when I talk with somebody about this age, not 85, of course, of age, but
Yeah.
when someone is called 9 or the 27 years later, something will happen around hexagram 85 and 82 later on and 40, but there are resonances over here. What
Yeah.
is going on? And that's the beauty of talking about it, Yijing, and
Yes.
with people. What's happening? Okay, this person, this young guy, he was so sad, and I asked his mother, who was so sad before him, and he said, she said, "Father, okay, yeah, I can understand that." And
Mm.
he is now in this line. You
Okay.
understand? 20, 18.
32?
No,
You mean
no,
that's it? Oh, yeah.
no, he's now in this line, 20
Oh,
years
okay.
old.
Okay.
Dus yeah, he's in this line.
Okay.
Again in the father line. So that's
Yeah.
why I was with the father, and there is a lot of going on in the father issues over here.
Yeah.
And I can see it in this hexagram. So we can relate that and talk about that. This father today emailed me what you said to my wife on the phone. She said it to me. It really resonated on me. Let's have a talk because I want to know
Okay.
this more and
Oh, wow.
what I can do with my son to feel a more yeah manly
Okay. Yeah.
um and of course for himself
Yeah.
how to be a man because we have something very difficult going on in young in these times.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, Johannes, I see that you have one slide left. Slide number 11.
Yeah. Okay. Here we have 12 karmic hexagrams. So every nuclear hexagram, 4 in the middle, 1, 2, 64, 63, and 12 that remains. And these are very important when it comes to the ND model
Okay.
uh, with comic comic lines. Oh, this is a very difficult issue, I feel.
Okay.
What's your
Um,
question?
well, my general question would be, what are these 12 karmic hexagrams? Where do they come from and how do you apply them? But I think that would take another 2 hours to explain. So I
Yeah.
was wondering, maybe this is a good topic to discuss in the next podcast, in which we will talk about an example. And maybe
Yep.
with this example, you can explain how you use these karmic hexagrams, these 12 karmic hexagrams, because
Yep.
otherwise I'm afraid we will go through all the 12 hexagrams and we don't have time for that. So my suggestion would be to leave this slide for what it is.
Yep.
And in the example, you can focus on one or more of these karmic hexagrams and tell how they can be practically applied.
Okay. Let me tell one thing, little thing.
Yes.
In this, we see 9 and here 9.
Yeah.
And if we use the nuclear hexagram, we will get 38.
Okay.
And when we get that, we know a lot about the karmic lines before the self, in the self and the father in this profile.
Okay.
So what I do is combine karmic fields.
Okay.
Nou ja, okay. We yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe in the next presentation,
Yeah.
next podcast, you can tell about what this idea of karmic hexagon means to you. What maybe also what karma means to you personally, and
Oh,
because then we can make these karmic hexagons more practical.
okay. We will do
So
that.
and our viewers and listeners already got a huge amount of information about your system, and I think. In the next podcast, it will all make sense how you can interpret an ND model and what it says about an individual. And because Johannes, wasn't the idea that we were going to ask someone to join the podcast, the next podcast?
Yeah, yeah. Please
So
come. Your viewer.
Oh dear.
So, come. And if you like to have an example of your life team and the father and the mother teams and to be a part of our podcast, please be welcome. And I will give you an ND short stop and very pleased to do that.
Yeah, okay. So this is a call to our viewers. If you would like to be the victim, I mean the subject of our next podcast, if you want to see how Johannes makes your ND model, um, then please respond to you have this form, I think people can fill in to sign up. That's the idea.
No, just mail on our mail back on how you get the mail
Oh, of course, yeah, that's
anyway,
yeah, yeah,
and let me know, and we will take whoever we want, and if
yes.
it's in the right time zone, and we will
Yeah,
get
exactly.
back
Because you
at
have to
you.
be that's important. You have to be able to join the podcast. So you're going to join live with this podcast. That's important. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So if you want to experience firsthand how this is working, we can only do one person. So it's not we will not discuss five or more of these models, how interesting, however they are, but we can only do it for one person, and it's up to us to decide who it's going to be. Yes.
Yep, yep. Let us know.
Okay, yeah, and then we're also going to combine it with Wenwangwa.
Yeah, and
So
that's
it's going to be
yeah,
fun.
that's something never heard before of
No,
Harp.
that's correct. So okay, so let's see what kind of response we get from our viewers, and then we'll see you all in the next podcast. Thank you, Johannes, for explaining your model. I think it's very interesting, and I do personally hope that you will be able to give an English workshop about it, because up to now you have only done it in Dutch, right?
Yep, yeah,
Yeah. So
correct.
hopefully in the future you can give a workshop about this in English, and because I'm sure that there will be viewers who will be interested in learning to do this by themselves.
Please let me know, and I will go into that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Johannes. Thank you for sharing your system and your experience. And well, looking forward to the next podcast.
Always.
Okay. Thank you, Johannes. Have a nice evening.